Can't decide and torn between a romantic, comedy, action, or an indie film to watch for the weekend? Well. Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast is your ultimate guide to the latest movies. Join us as we dissect the latest on the blockbusters. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Movie Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Staci.
And I'm your co-host, Sarah.
And today, our two movies are about revenge.
Ooh.
Sicario.
It's a dish best served cold, I've heard.
Well, but maybe. That's why I chose it, because it's so hot right now. I needed something cold, so Revenge is totally the thing to do that for.
Yes. And are these movies serving their revenge cold or no? Is it hot revenge?
Both of them seem to be taking place in not cold weather.
Yes.
One of them is taking place in Mexico for the most part. Not sure what time, but it doesn't seem too cold then, although they do wear jackets. But partly they're also, wading the Rio Grande. So there's that. And then the other one, I have no clue when that's actually taking place. No clue whatsoever. But it also seems sort of hot and dusty at places there. So.
All right.
So
Completely
the first movie, yes. The first movie is Sicario, Day of the Soldado.
I keep seeing this every time I log into IMDb. That's the background right now. And so it's like skull staring at me.
Well, when I first chose to see this one, I didn't actually know it was a sequel.
Oh, I didn't know I didn't either. What was the first one?
Sicario.
Oh, okay.
Which
makes perfect sense. I just didn't know it was a movie before.
Yeah, because it's not Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado. It's just Sicario, Day of the Soldado. That sounds like its own movie. And it kind of is, I think. There's some mention in this about Benicio del Toro's character, Alejandro, and his family, who was killed by Carlos Reyes. I have no idea if that's what takes place in the first one, because the first one has something to do with Emily Blunt, who's not in the second one.
Right.
So I asked a coworker about what the first one was, just to see if, that would explain the small amounts of confusion I had at the end of the second one. And it doesn't really seem to too much.
Okay.
So I'm not sure it was necessary to see the first one in order to see the second one.
Okay, so I'm just looking because now I'm like, oh, right. Do I remember this movie? Vaguely. I don't even know. Yeah, I do vaguely remember this movie. So it came out in 2015.
Okay.
And then this one, obviously 2018, since that's the year I think we're in.
Is it?
I don't know.
I have no idea. But yeah, so I saw the trailers for the first one back when it came out, and I only know that after the fact when I looked it up as well.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember seeing that and thinking, that looks like an interesting movie for Emily Blunt to be in.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see it, so I don't know much of the storyline at all, except something about
drugs,
government agents fighting drug cartels, something like that. So in this one, it starts off kind of confusing. There is a stop of immigrants crossing from Mexico, and one of them blows themselves up.
Oh dear.
And then the next day, I think, several people blow themselves up in Kansas City or somewhere, and we're trying to figure out what's going on there, how that happened. Turns out those people, or at least one of them, crossed in through the immigrant crossing from Mexico. But why are terrorists crossing from Mexico? How did that work? We go along this whole thing, blah, 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 into, okay, it's the drug cartels. So we need to stop the drug cartels. Okay. And you kind of see this in the trailer where they're talking about the president is going to name drug cartels as potential terrorist groups, so that would allow the Secretary of Defense or what have you to have more power to fight them. But it doesn't seem that's happened yet. And so in the meantime, we need to create this covert operation to sort of mess up the drug cartels and get them fighting each other, so we can be point and say, see, they're dangerous, and they're also having a war, and they're dangerous. let's not, let the drug cartels in or something like that.
Okay.
So Josh Brolin is brought in for this, we won't admit this is really happening mission to start the drug cartels fighting each other. And he brings in Benicio del Toro's character because Benicio del Toro's character is, a man with a certain set of skills or something.
I thought that was Liam Neeson.
Aren't they all? Yeah. So I think he's originally a hitman, possibly in the first one. In this one, he's kind of he's brought in to kill people. Mm-hmm. So roughly the same. Mm-hmm. And they end up taking this teenage girl, Isabel Reyes, who is the daughter of Carlos Reyes, who runs one of the drug cartels, to sort of pin it on another drug cartel. But then that mission doesn't quite go as planned. I was just going to say, does that ever work? No, missions went as planned, would we have these movies? True. That never happens. True. So that doesn't quite go as planned. They get kind of separated. Benicio del Toro goes to find Isabel, while Josh Brolin heads back to America, where he gets chewed out because the mission didn't go as planned. So we're just going to disavow the whole mission. And we need to take out anyone who can tell anyone else about our mission, which includes Benicio del Toro and the girl. So Josh Brolin is ordered to kill them to clean up the mess. Oh, good Lord. But he feels, tied enough to Benicio del Toro to sort of alert him of the fact of this, of like, hey, I'm coming to kill you. So I'm sorry. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it's just the sort of, so I've been ordered to clean the site, which includes you, so don't be there when I get there because I don't want to have to kill you. Right, but that sort of thing. It's like an honor amongst killers, sort of thought. I don't know. So Benicio del Toro has to deal with that while trying to keep Isabel safe. And there's this whole side story that takes a while to pay off because we keep flashing back and forth to it, not in time, but just like we're dealing with the main story. And then there's this side story of this kid who lives in a border town who joins the local, I guess it's a cartel. His cousin works for the cartel and he joins up to be one of the people who leads the immigrants into the country because it pays well. Sure. Essentially. Okay. And we keep going back to that kid, and it takes a while for it to be like, why do we keep flashing to him? He doesn't know any of the main characters. Why do we keep showing him what's with the story? I don't understand how this ties in. You finally do see how it ties in later. But then I liked the movie for the first, 2/3. Okay. I didn't see the first one, so I have no idea how much of it's drawing from that story. They talk about things that have happened, like Carlos Reyes killing Benicio del Toro's family, but I don't know if that happened in the first one or if that's just his character's backstory, period, and that had already happened by the time we get to the first one. Clearly, he and Josh Brolin have a history. Neither of them has met the girl before, but she, for some odd reason, decides to trust at least Benicio del Toro's character, even though she, at some point kind of figures out, hey, you guys kind of lied to me. Right. But decides he's the lesser of two evils, and or he at least doesn't want to kill me, and others might, so I'll trust him. Benicio del Toro could be the nicest guy on the planet in real life. He never, but because of the roles he plays, I don't know that I could trust him if I'd be like, right. If I met him in real life, I'd be like, please don't kill me. Well, see, the only thought process I have of him in real life, and it's not even real life, is from the commercial where they think he's Antonio Banderas. And so that's my thought process of that's the real Benicio del Toro, gets constantly confused for Antonio Banderas. That's all. That's it. He's either these people in these movies or he gets confused for Antonio Banderas. And he could be a lovely human being. I would just be like, Yes. So I guess that my whole point was the fact that Isabel decides to trust him in the movie. It feels at times, and I don't think they were drawing on this too much, but it feels at times a bit like The Professional, where in the same way with that, I was kind of wondering why Natalie Portman decides to randomly trust this guy. I was like, you have no other options, I guess, and your family wasn't that great anyways, so cool, let's go with the guy who can, theoretically keep me from getting killed. Right, yeah. I mean, hey, you gotta choose your associations, I suppose, in this situation. Yeah. So there's a number of, I don't even know if you want to call them action scenes, more as to shooting scenes. Because when they first go in, they're pretending to be a different cartel. So they A, kill somebody, and then B, kidnap Isabel without Isabel knowing it's them at first, they're wearing like masks and hats and what have you. So that when she first meets them, they're actually pretending to be DEA agents who have rescued her.
Okay.
To trick her into thinking this whole situation was real. You've been kidnapped by a cartel, but we've saved you and we're going to take you back to Mexico. Blah, 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 blah. That's where the plan actually ends up going badly, is the taking her back to Mexico part, though I'm still super confused on why we took her to Texas in the first place. Like, how could you couldn't have, since the whole plan is to make it seem like a different cartel took her, why are we in Texas? Because we then have to go back into Mexico. And so the story actually, the plan ends up being take her from Mexico to Texas. She gets back to Mexico, but then we have to take her back to Texas. It's like, what?
There's a lot of back and forthing here.
Right? And I mean, you kind of get that with the side story with the kid is you very easily keep going back and forth between Mexico and Texas, and fine, you're Mexican American and you have an American passport, and I've never actually been to Mexico, even though I live in California. So theoretically, that's pretty simple for people who actually have a passport, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, haven't tried it.
I don't know. Because like when he first goes to Mexico with his cousin simply shows the person in the little border toll crossing booth, shows him that they have passports, doesn't even open them. Like, there could be blank pages in those passports. We have no idea.
Nice.
And I guess we're not too concerned of people who want to go from America into Mexico. We're more concerned of people who want to come the other way. But I'm just like,
right.
Really?
But yeah,
like, in that case, do you need a passport? And I'm not sure. I was like, are those American passports? Why was that super simple to get into Mexico that way? Because there are lines, but I'm just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I feel like they would make you open your passport, but what do I know?
I don't know. My passport expired without ever being used, so I don't know how any border crossing works anywhere. I'm very sad about that, but that's a different topic.
Yes, and I even knew that, and it still made me say, "Aw."
It did, I know. So, anyways, after things go badly, let's just say, and we get to this whole, okay, now it's you versus us as opposed to us versus cartel, we never really see, like, I have no idea if we've ever seen Carlos Reyes in either of these films. He might just be a big bad name that doesn't exist. Theoretically he does, because Isabella is his daughter, but she actually lives in a house by herself with servants. So it's not clear how much she sees her family, and she doesn't seem too, close to them, because she's perfectly fine to not go back to her father, but instead go back to Texas for some reason. So again,
well, if your dad, if your dad was the head of a cartel, wouldn't you be like, yeah, I can live somewhere else?
Well, it's because so when we first meet Isabel, she's actually got into a fight at her, I think it's a Catholic school. It's a girls' school. They're all wearing uniforms, and she's evidently got into a fight because the other girl supposedly called her a narco whore. And so she beat her up. And when the principal is criticizing her for this, he's like, well, that's not your place. And she's like, well, fine, then you beat the bitch up. And he's like, I should expel you. And she's like, I'd like to see you try. She doesn't say that, but she essentially challenges him, knowing you're not going to do anything to me because my father's who my father is.
Right.
He doesn't, and she leaves. But she clearly is, aware of, okay, this is the situation I'm in. My father
using it to her advantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then it's not clear beyond, okay, this is my father and people are scared of him, how connected she is to the rest of the cartel. Mm-hmm. She's used to having security guards around her and just being shuttled from place to place. But then she clearly has never really been in a bad situation, because you feel so badly for her for like 3 or 4 times in this movie. Especially like all the shootouts. There's the shootout to kidnap her the first time, and then there's the shootout when the mission goes wrong, and it's just like, you are going to be like mentally scarred. I feel really bad for this girl who's supposed to be only like 16. And it's just like, oh man, you just, and I on the one hand, I kind of get why, maybe that would be a sort of, not quite Stockholm syndrome, but like, this is the guy who keeps me from getting killed in these situations where people are getting killed. Okay, yeah, I'm going with him. I'm going with that guy because somehow bullets don't hit me when I'm near him. Like,
well, sure.
Like, there is one scene where someone gets shot, like in the head, right near her, and it's just like, and she's got like blood on her, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm really glad
then.
that's not my life. And can I tell you something completely random? So you know me, I'm always looking things up while we're talking. And I'm looking on IMDb at the young woman who plays Isabel. Her name is Isabella.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's an American actress, voice actress, singer, songwriter, dancer, and ukulele player. I don't know why I found that interesting, but she's a ukulele player. Good for her. I just like that she's, Yeah.
I would want to do that too. I'd want to play an instrument that you never really hear about.
Not the daughter of a...
Well, she's really not. But so I liked the movie up until about the last third when they're trying to cross back into Texas for the second time, but in the less, legally sanctioned way. And then things start happening, and we see how the tie-in with the guy who's joining the cartel comes in. And then that whole happens, and then it goes somewhere where I'm like, wow, you really chose to take this film in a not I would have ever predicted way. But then that doesn't actually turn out that way. And then it just ends. And
I hate that.
It feels almost like this is the second in a series of books. I was trying to tell a character about this, and he was like Tom Clancy, and I'm like, I don't actually read these books, so sure. One of those sort of thriller books that follows the same character through different missions or what have you.
Yeah.
So if we were following Benicio del Toro's character, it's like this is the second in a whatever, because at the end it clearly feels like they're trying to set up for a sequel, but I'm not sure there actually is any plan to make a sequel, because I'm not even sure this sequel was planned. It kind of feels like this just happened. Also, hey, we can get most of these actors to be free at this time, and that was an interesting character, so let's go back to that. This wasn't actually written to happen afterward. Again, I haven't seen the first, so I have no idea how that one ended and whether that was set up for a sequel. So this one feels set up for a third, but also at the same time doesn't feel like we actually have any plans right now to make that third. I don't know at the end almost anybody's ending, what happened to people. As long as the character's still alive, I don't know how they ended. Oh. If they're dead, I do. But if the character is still alive at the ending, the way it ends, I'm like, I don't know what happened to that person. I only kind of know what happened to this person, but I don't know what's about to happen. I don't know how this person got to this place. And that would actually be a really fascinating thing, but we time skipped that for some reason. What? I was like, the ending was so you didn't... That's it? That's the ending? What the heck? You didn't end this story that it kind of... I was with it up until we started getting into the last third, and then I was like, you didn't end, so I'm not happy. So,
yeah, I don't like it when movies don't end, or they just end.
But it didn't even. It's like, I don't know, season. Not even like a season finale. This was like we're going to Christmas break finale, and we'll be back
like a mid-season finale,
and we'll be back in the middle of January. So you only have to wait about a month, and then you can find out. It felt that sort of way. Like I almost feel you should be coming back. And then I don't know that you ever will. And again, I don't know how this compares to the first. So I can't say whether if you liked the first, you would like this one. I liked it well enough, considering there are lots of shooting and numerous people get killed, and we clearly don't care about them. I want to know what's going to happen to these characters. So I'm upset that I don't.
So if there is a third one, will you watch it just to see if maybe you will find out what happens to those characters?
If there is a third one, I would probably look up the cast list first just to see if those characters... Because if you go off in if it's been 7 years since this one for the third one,
right,
and you've gone off in a totally different thing, and the only thing we have is Benicio del Toro and or Josh Brolin, but not the other... I'm a little upset. So right. I would look up what the basic cast list and premise is for the third one, and then decide from there.
Sounds good.
Yes. So we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Movie Podcast. Our second film about revenge today is Memento. This is somewhat of an old film. I believe it came out around 2000, which I know for Sarah is like old what, but I feel like the new Spider-Man in the Avengers films where he's like, hey, did you guys ever hear of that really old film Return of the Jedi?
Oh Lord.
Just like,
I'm old.
Your concept of old. Oh good Lord, is this where the generation's at?
So yes, it was 2000.
Yes. So old in that I think that is possibly the oldest film I've done so far in this podcast.
Okay, maybe.
I can't think if I've done anything older than that. But normally the films are either out in theaters now or only a few years old because I missed them somehow in theaters. So this is old for this podcast and my version of it.
But hey, if you haven't seen it, you can hear about it.
Yes,
because I haven't seen it.
Well, and I had heard.
I know you're shocked, listening audience, that I haven't seen it. I used to watch a ton of movies, and then in the last year, I've seen like one. So yeah, I really did used to watch a lot, and
sure,
and then I got on a movie podcast, and now I don't watch any movies hardly ever.
That seems kind of backwards.
It is. But anywho, Memento.
So I had heard a number of good things about this film, just from other friends who like movies, and it was one I wanted to see for a while and just never got around to. And I don't quite remember why I chose to watch it for this episode, because it wasn't originally on the revenge topic. That just happened to work out. But I was like, okay, I want to see this. So you're near the top of my queue. Let's go. So this film is very interesting. It is about a man who is searching for the person who raped and killed his wife, but the character played by
Guy Pearce.
Thank you. I just completely blanked for a moment, and I was thinking Count of Monte Cristo, and that's a different Guy Pearce movie. He has short-term memory loss. Well, not short-term memory loss exactly. He has a condition where he can't form new memories.
Okay.
So after a very short period of time, like if he was me, he wouldn't remember who you were. He'd start the podcast with you if you had just introduced yourself, and before the first commercial break, it'd be like, who are you? Okay. I don't know who you are.
But he remembers his memories before are intact, so he remembers that his wife is dead?
Somewhat.
Okay.
So this whole condition started on the night when his wife was attacked. Someone broke into their house, and he tried to stop them and got hit on the back of the head.
Okay.
And that's how this condition happened. So in order to keep going in his search, he uses things to help remind himself, like taking Polaroids of things and then writing notes on them, or tattooing things on his body.
Oh my.
So he has tattooed on his body and tattooed backwards so that he can read it properly when he looks at himself in the mirror. John G. raped and killed my wife.
Wow.
So that is how he is able to remember. He does seem to sort of actually be able to remember the attack, but not necessarily what happened after he got hit in the back of the head. So he has to tattoo certain things onto his body and or take Polaroids of people and places to remember what it is. But the interesting thing about this film, beyond that, and the whole how do you do a film with a character who forgets things every 3 minutes or so, is this film is actually shown almost in reverse.
Oh.
So you start with him confronting the person he thinks raped and killed his wife, and you go through that scene, and then you flash back and you go to the scene that would have happened right before it. So it's as if you have the DVD scenes and you're going 16, 15, 14, 13, and watching the scene to the end, and then going to the scene that happened before it. So you get little snippets, and you go back in time through the day as it happens. It's very interesting.
Is it confusing?
It's only confusing at first because, I was confused on whether or not this was all one day or happening over multiple days. But then there's also, the main scenes are happening in color, and there's this black and white scene that's happening without going back in time. It's just going straight through, which seems to have happened at some point before the color scenes, where he's on the phone with someone explaining his condition and how he came upon his whole method of writing notes to himself because he's comparing himself to Sammy Jenkins. And he has tattooed on his hand, remember, Sammy Jenkins. So it's confusing at first until you get, okay, this is all the same day with the color scenes. The color scenes are connected. The black and white scenes are connected. the color scenes are going 16, 15, 14. The black and white scenes are going 1, 2, 3. And this all ties in together somehow.
Wow. If you say it wasn't confusing, I will believe you.
I know it sounds really confusing, but it only took me about 10 minutes to get where we were and everything. And then I really wanted to like hurry up and rewind almost because we're going back in time to figure out, you know, what's going on, because it's hard. And you can imagine, especially if you actually had this condition, it's hard to know who to trust, because someone could tell you something and in 3 minutes you forget it and they can tell you something different. And you do actually see that at times in the film, that he can't really trust anyone because they could be lying to him.
Right.
They could be, so there's clearly something going on. He doesn't know, and none of the people he's dealing with, he knew before the accident. These are all new people. So he actually ends up kind of introducing himself repeatedly to them. And they're like, yeah, I know who you are.
Right.
We've done this. We've had I know about your condition. We've talked about this. But he's not dealing with anyone familiar to him. So everyone is a potential suspect or accomplice or just tricking him. And it's tense, but at the same time also kind of fun, because you also get this voiceover at times from Guy Pearce, as if you were in his head. So like at one point there's a great thing where we hop back to a color scene and he's running and he's like, okay, so what am I doing right now? Oh, there's that guy and he's running and I'm running. Oh, I must be chasing him. And then he goes to run towards the guy and the guy goes to run towards him and he's like, oh no, he's chasing me. And I was just like, he's amazingly calm at almost all the situations, considering that when we hop into these scenes, we, like him, don't know what happened. And I think that's part of why we're doing it back in time, because it's only about the amount of time he can actually remember these scenes. So if you suddenly hop into, like, if you couldn't remember how you got to right now, I'd be freaked at least. But he's got a system enough to keep himself calm of, okay, who's this person? Where am I? Oh, I seem to be in her bedroom. Okay, etc. He's managed to do it in such a calm way that I'm not too like, I'm freaking out right now. And since we start at the end, you kind of know where we're going.
Interesting.
It is a very interesting film. I really like this film, actually.
Okay.
Like, I want to watch it, and I'm sure somewhere out there, if I type it into Google, I can probably find like Memento in order to see all the scenes in order to see how it goes through, because there's a couple of things where I'm still confused at the end, beginning, depending on how you look at it, about some of the characters. But at the end, I feel like I've gotten the main storyline. I've gotten what's happened on this one day we're in with the color scenes, to, you know, how we got to the ending that we technically started with, who these different characters are in relation to Guy Pearce's character, what the real situation was that happened, who was telling the truth, who wasn't. I feel like we got most of that. It's just sort of things that tie the side characters to each other that I'm still at the end like, wait, so who are you to them? I get who you are to Guy Pearce, but who are you to that person? What? And I'd love to see just how it goes in order, because I'd actually love to see like the behind the scenes of what order did you film this in?
Right.
Because normally, even in films, you don't have to film in order, but it would be very interesting to see if they chose a specific order to film these scenes in, given some of the things you see that happen, that when you get to the, I want to say later, but it's earlier.
Right.
The timing, when you get to the scene that happens afterwards, you see, actually that person's not being fully honest. But he won't remember that in 5 seconds. Oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
I like this film. It would be one I'd want to see again, and it'd be one I'd want to watch multiple times on like TV.
I have two things. Okay, first off, I just typed in Memento scenes, started typing into Google, and the first thing that pops up is in order.
Of course.
And two, okay, so he has these coping mechanisms to help himself remember things, including tattooing things on him. But tattooing takes a while. So is he lying in like the tattoo parlor, being tattooed, and every 3 minutes going, "What in the heck am I doing here? Who are you, and why am I getting a tattoo?"
I mean, so we do see him do. We do see two scenes with tattoos, one of which he does himself.
See, and that seems crazy, because how would you remember what you were doing?
I don't know. And then the second one, he's having it done to him when a character walks in that, of course, at that moment, he doesn't remember. And again, he's very calm every time he sort of, snaps to in a moment that he doesn't know of. But most of the tattoos, all of the tattoos are about him searching for his wife's killer. And most of them have things like fact number 1, fact number 2. So even if he, came in the middle of that to just sort of look around on your body to be like, oh, okay, so I tattoo facts on myself for some reason that I'll get to, but, it wouldn't be too strange as opposed to if you were just getting, like, I don't know, something tattooed on your face. Why would you do that? Like, in the middle of that coming to, would be like, why are you tattooing random visual thing on my face? But clearly, when I've got, fact 1, male, fact 2, white, fact 3, what have you, these are serious things I'm tattooing for a reason on my body. I'll let the tattoo artist finish and then go look at my body and see what the heck is going on here.
And then read my body and see the story. Yes. Interesting. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I definitely want to see this again. And yet somehow in the 18 years since it's come out, I've never seen it come on TV. It probably has come on like movie channels, but I've never seen it come on like network TV. I might have been too young if it did that in the first like 5 years to have wanted to watch it then. And I haven't seen it since, and I'm kind of sad about that, because this would be one of those ones where, like, every time it came on TV, I'd watch. Just to see, like, if I could get something new that I didn't get the time previous, because, again, it's kind of going backwards.
Right.
But now I do want to see, because clearly somebody must have edited it together in order.
Well, no, I didn't click on it, but I just... You'll have to do that to see
clearly
what comes up.
Other people also want to see it in order to be like, so wait, what? Yeah, it was very good. I really liked it.
Cool.
So on that note, we're going to end for today. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Movie Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.